Hello everyone, I'm Rahim Ramzanali, and on behalf of the Lobby Observer, welcome back to Full Court Press. We're excited to bring you another season of Recball, one of the greatest things in Westborough High School. Like, everyone loves Recball. It's played, we have 160 kids this year that's playing, and yeah, let's go introduce ourselves.
I'm Drew Gray.
I'm Shawn Levine.
I'm Tommy McGinn.
I'm Jake Birkhead.
And I'm AJ Tarzia.
So we're gonna go around first, and we're gonna say what we like about Recball and why it's such a big thing in Westborough.
Yeah, I love about Recball how it's like such a low commitment. You have like one practice a week, but the games are still super competitive and people come to watch.
I love that it gives kids outside of high school a chance to shine.
Yeah, kind of what AJ said. Like, I played school ball and rec ball, and the same level of competitiveness is shown. It's really fun. Gets everyone involved in school.
Yeah, it's kind of the best of both worlds, if you know what I mean. Like, rec ball is very competitive, but like it's still like low commitment, low stress. Like, you still play another winter sport if you do. You know what I mean? Like, rec ball is just it's a great time for kids of all grades.
Exactly. It really brings a sense of community to the school, unlike any other event that happens at the school, and that's why I love rec ball.
Yeah, and going off of what Tommy says, being a school ball player, like, it's just fun to watch people who don't play school ball be competitive and playing basketball, so it's really fun.
All right, so without further ado, we're going to head into our rankings for this year. These are preseason rankings. We don't really know much about a lot of these players. A lot of them are underclassmen, but we're hoping that someone surprises us because this list looks pretty solid in my opinion. So coming in last place, we got Team Last. Drew, do you want to elaborate on that first?
Yeah, I mean, I also had them last. It's kind of just because, like, I don't know, Ben Verheyen with the first pick, solid player. Yeah, I don't know. Shawn, you want to continue on that?
Well, you know, Ben's a real athlete. I've played a lot of basketball with him, and I will say that he has definitely improved. I think he's gotten better. I was just playing with him the other day. He's gotten a lot better at shooting and making layups. I don't know if he was necessarily a top 5 pick in this draft maybe, but I think that he's going to surprise some people with how he plays this year.
Team Last, very interesting team, to say the least. What I do notice, though, is they have a lot of athletes. You got Hunter Bramley. I know he just came off like a hand injury, but I think he'll get in there. He'll be fine. Yeah, Esta himself. You know, he's a great shooter. I played with him once, and he just lights out. Seabass, I think, is a football player. And Ben Verheyen, just all-around athlete. So I think we'll be very surprised by this team. But, you know, overall basketball talent, I'm not sure how they're going to really work it out here.
Yeah, I also had them last. I'm worried about them having like a main scorer. I know, like we said, Ben Verheyen is very athletic. Esta, he's a very streaky shooter. So if he's hot, maybe they could get a lot of points from him. But I'm just worried about their main scorer. That's why I have them last.
Yeah, I don't see a main scorer on this team, but I'm also like looking forward to watch Seabass Grillo. He's a big football player. He's built. He sets a big screen, and like he's like a solid role player that can make a layup every time.
I've seen him at PSC. I think he could be a good player for this team for sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen many of these guys play in a year. I hope they got better because it would be kind of sad to watch them lose every game again. I mean, there's not much you could say anymore. Like, this is basically the football team, right?
Yeah,
and the next team is also basically the football team. In 11th place, we have Team Cespedes. Slightly better than Team Last, in my opinion, just because of just more like actual basketball talent. Like, we know that Julian Cespedes is not really a basketball player, but he can get in there. He can get in the paint. He can be a defender.
So looking at this team, it's very similar in my opinion to Team Last. I think it's just an overall like athletic team. You got football players. Rahul, I heard, plays basketball.
Yeah,
I think
he was on JV last year.
Really, I haven't seen him play, but I've heard great things about him. So I think what gives them the edge over Team Last is they have like an actual like proven basketball player. So like maybe he'll be like the leading scorer, help them out. Camden is really athletic and he's pretty big, I think. Luke Molesky, you know, our quarterback, you know, he's got to be athletic. So like I would hope he can hold his own. So
Yeah, I think Luke Molesky is definitely really tall, athletic. I think he could have a breakout year. I think they'll really need him to have a breakout year if they're gonna go far.
Surprised you guys haven't talked about him, Drew Shinoy. I do think he's slept on. Coming off soccer season, he's gonna be in prime condition, ready to run. He's an absolute dog on defense. Like, this kid literally lives for defense. when I was talking to him about the season, he like used to tell me that he models like his game after Russell Westbrook. He's a big driver. Yeah.
Talking a big game already.
Oh yeah.
I have seen him play in gym class. He is a good defender. I would say, yeah, someone to look out for. I feel like could surprise some people for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to the number 10 spot. Rahim and I had a team called our own. I think this is a really interesting team. In my opinion, probably the most interestingly built team in rec. You have, Vincent Zhang, Luke Hadley, Joel Lee, and a couple other good solid role players, I would say. For this team to be great, you have to have Vincent be an all-star. He's gonna have to drop 20 bomb every single game. I heard great things about Joel Lee. I think I see him in the hall. He's massive. I'm not sure if he's a basketball player.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he played on the school team freshman year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I mean, I've seen him play. He's a solid big man. He is probably going to be the second best player on this team in my opinion, behind Vincent.
Yeah. No.
And also looking at Luke Hadley, I think
huge kid. Yeah.
So that's a big team right there. They
Yeah.
also have Logan Much too, and then Joe Furbish went pretty high in the draft, but for good reason because. It's kind of similar to Drew. He's gonna be one of the better defenders in this league for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen Joel Lee play. He's definitely a fundamental basketball player, and he's huge, right? The kid can probably score inside and outside. He's gonna be a good two-way player for them too, especially Vincent bringing up the ball every time. But see, I like that. Right here is where it starts to get interesting. We don't know who's in the 10th spot, the 9th spot, the 8th spot. These are very interchangeable. The skill gap is not that wide coming into the 10th to the 1 spot. So it's gonna be a good year as far as I can say. Any other comments about?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year Team Henderson, who won it all, was ranked 10th. So you never really know what can happen. And I think this team really could go pretty far. I mean, Vincent's gonna have to obviously. He's gonna have to shoot a lot and he's gonna have to score a lot. But I think they'll get a lot of rebounds as well. They have a lot of height, and if they can play good defense, this team could really sneak up on some people.
Yeah, definitely. I think for them to be successful, Vincent needs to drop 20 to 25. He's definitely capable because he's not to one. He's not afraid to shoot the ball.
Oh, he's not afraid to shoot the
ball.
That's for sure.
If he's on, I do think that they can win some games, but I think it's really difficult if he's having an off day.
Exactly. All right, moving on to the next team. We had Barry Barr at the 9th slot. So, what are you guys' thoughts on that, first off?
I mean, so they got O&T with their first round pick. O&T, obviously JV basketball player last year. Big kid, big strong, athletic basketball player. I mean, he's not the greatest shooter, but I would say that he's probably going to be the best player on this team. And you add Colin Barr, a great shooter. You add Ryan Snow, also a good shooter. So I think this team has some serious potential to maybe make some noise.
Yeah, I think Colin Barr is a really underrated player, and I think he was a really good shooter last year. And I think you combine that with O&T's height, you can have sort of a good duo there. I think that it could be a really good team.
Yeah, O&T, I see him in BSC. He can dunk, so he's not very consistent, so he's working on it. But I'm definitely looking to see one of those in-game dunks from O&T.
Yeah, for sure.
To really hype people up.
So my opinion on this team, I think Ryan Snow played against him in one of the games last year and he lit us up. He just did not miss. He's really good. Colin Barr is an underrated player. He's actually a pretty good shooter. But obviously O&T as well. He's probably going to be very good. But one thing that really worries me about this team was I was talking to C. Barr the other day, and doesn't seem too confident. And one thing you have to have in a team is leadership and confidence. And if you don't go in there with that mindset, I just don't know if you're going to be very successful.
Yeah.
Well, to add on that, I was talking to O&T yesterday, and he was talking up a pretty big game
really?
about himself. He was saying no one in the league will be able to stop him. So I think you definitely have a confidence
that's
right
expected.
there.
Mixed feelings on that team.
Yeah.
That's expected. Well, this is a very interesting position, by the way, because not only do we have Team Barry Barr at 9, we got Team Breen at number 8, and they're rated the exact same on our scale. See, the thing with Team Breen is why we put them above Team Barr is that they got that top 3, that Tim Breen, that Max Dulé, and that Owen Fiedler, and then it just kind of falls off from there. So, does anyone have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, their top 3 is very solid. Tim Breen was an all-star last year, I believe.
Underclassman of the year.
Yeah, and Owen Fiedler, seen him play in BSC a lot. I think people are going to be surprised by him. One other person I want to point out on this team is Cale Duggan. Seen him play in the rec camp before. I think he is also going to surprise a lot of people. Probably going to be maybe the third best player on this team.
Wow, that's a big comment right there. I think this is an interesting team. Tim Breen went to the finals last year. He had a great performance. I think he'll be easily a top 10 player in this league. Max, I think, was a JV2 player, I think?
Yes.
Yeah.
JV2.
Yeah.
But he did play rec last year, and he was pretty good.
Yeah, he's a proven player, I think. Owen, I've heard some things, like some good things about. I've never really seen him play, but we'll see. But yeah, I just don't know a lot about their bench, so we'll definitely have to see what happens.
No, yeah, my biggest problem with this team is the bench. I just don't
Yeah.
Aside from their top players, this is a top-heavy team.
Exactly.
And of course, we can't forget about Hemath.
Oh man.
He is going to be the best bench player in the league. I'm calling a 6th man of the year right here.
I don't know about that one, but
Bold
definitely
prediction.
see, yeah.
He's putting in that work at BSC. See him.
You see him every day.
Yeah,
he doesn't
every
skip
day.
a day.
We're on that post move. Watch out.
Okay,
That's got a lot in
number 7, we have Martin/Sassetti. So this is actually a pretty good team. AJ is on this team, and he was very unconfident about his team. But I have to say that he's in fact wrong, because not only do we have Brandon Martin, a top 10 player who consistently dropped 20 to 30 last year, we got Sri Ranga, who I've heard good things about. He has to prove himself this year. Trey Sassetti, as they call him. I've never seen him play, but apparently he's a really good shooter. AJ Tarzia, whom we know played JV last year, and then Zach Vibey, who I think is a sleeper this year. He's a very underrated player. Nobody really knows him, but I think he makes his team well-rounded.
Yeah, I think people forget that Zach Vibey was on the Givens team when our grade was in 8th grade. So I mean, I know Zach Vibey is a good basketball player, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people as well, just because like Rahim said, nobody really knows about him. And then obviously Brendan, top 10 player. I mean, arguably I think top 5 player in the league. Really good player. So I think this team is gonna make a lot of noise this year. I think personally I had them ranked even higher than what you have them here. I think they could be really good.
Yeah, no, they could very well be ranked higher, but the amount of talent we see in these next few teams is just unbeaten.
No, I think Brendan is definitely a top 5 player in the league. He has a ridiculous reach. He's very hard to stop if he gets right into the basket. And Gray, honestly, I think that everybody was talking about, for Team Henderson-Lebec, them losing Jay was a big loss. And it obviously is. Jay was one of their best players last year. I think them losing Gray is going to be a much bigger thing than anybody else thought it would. Because Gray has definitely improved from last season. I played with him a lot over the summer. He's a very good shooter. He's a very good passer. He has a nice handle. I think they're going to miss that on their offense.
So my opinion of this team, Brendan Martin is a stud. He's so big and just so athletic. I think he's on a more competitive team this year, and being a leader of more competitive teams is going to be a weird transition for him. But I'm very excited to see what he's going to do. AJ, my good buddy, I think he's going to do very well this season. I think he's a good shooter. He's a good overall basketball player. Zach Vibey, like Drew said, I used to play with him at Gibbons a little bit. I think he's very underrated. Not enough people give him credit. Trey Sassetti, probably, in my opinion, the best role player in Recball. Last year he went to the finals, helped you guys out big time. And Cherie, I think I've heard great things about him so far, just from pickup ball and whatnot, but super tall kid. And I see him back in my micro class, and he's just huge, towering over me. I'm very excited for this team. I think they could easily be a top 3 team.
Yeah, so I think we've reached the point in the rec ball rankings, for me personally, where we're looking at championship caliber teams. I think this team, if they play like they should, I think that they could go all the way. Brendan Martin is just insane. I mean, he's so difficult to guard. He gets every rebound. I think he averaged 20 points a game last year pretty easily. Gray, obviously, we talked about him last year being a great role player. I've only heard that he's improved. I think that he could go from a role player to potentially even a superstar in the league. You have AJ, obviously. I think he's on a good team. There'll be great boards, and he'll be the main guard on the team. And then Shri, I played with him in 8th grade rec, and he was better than me then, and he's definitely only improved since then. So I'm very excited to watch this team.
Yeah, going into this, looking at my team, my first look was I knew Brendan Martin from watching last year, but then it kind of fell off for me because there's a bunch of role players. But I think I've been looking at it more and more and hearing bunch of good things. And I think that if we like click together, all the role players can like work together, and then we could all put in like 10 a game, and it'd be really well like put together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Zach Vibey and who was the other guy we talked about? It was Sriranga.
So sure, yeah.
Sriranga and Grace said he need to put in that work this year. They need to show out that they can actually be like star caliber players on this team, and this team could definitely go far. So moving on to the next team, we have Team Meyer, who has like so much talent. It's like it's a mystery how they're ranked number 6 or number 5, wherever they are. So they got
number 6. Yeah.
They're number 6. They got Eli Warzik, who is the number 1 pick in the draft. Like the kid is a cheat code, mini Will Collins, right? And we have Jake Daplite, who is a great athlete. I don't know anything if he plays basketball or not, but
sometimes in rec ball you don't even need to play basketball. You can just be a proven athlete and just be an absolute stud in scoring the ball. I think that's what Jake Daps is going to do this year.
I think that team is going to be a great defensive team too.
Yeah, building on what Tommy said with Jake Dapley, I feel like the thing that I always say is people that play team sports like hockey or soccer tend to have a natural ability to play other team sports like basketball. So I think Jake Dapley is going to be a pretty good player. Other person to look out for, David Hilfinger, great role player. I think he's a 10 to 12 a game for this team. And then we got Shawn. So I mean, you have any comments on this team?
I played with David last year. I think that David, a lot of people are going to underrate David going into this season. He's a good scorer. We played on a team last year where we had very ball-dominant seniors, so a lot of Shree was on that team too. So I feel like people like David and Shree that normally would have scored a lot more points last year are going to show out this year and surprise a lot of people.
All right, I think Eli, I played against him last year. This kid has clamps. Like, he is so good. I think he can be a top 5 player in the league this year, and it's kind of crazy that he's only a junior. He's not even a senior in this league. I think David Hilfiger, he's super tall and lengthy as well. You got Shawn Levine, of course, probably going to be one of the better rebounders. And this team just has so much depth, and I'm very excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, I think Eli, Jake, and David might be one of the best trios in the league right there. I think there's 3 guys right there that could maybe score 10 points a game. And I think I also want to highlight Luke Brackett. I saw him I haven't played with him since 6th grade rec.
That's a shout. That's a good shout right there.
He was really good and really underrated. Great defensive player, and I think he's a really good guard. And I think he could really help come off the bench or maybe even be in the starting lineup for that team.
Yeah, I think you guys are overlooking Brady Robinson. He's so like quiet, and he likes to sit in the corner and shoot his threes. But like those add up, so you really need to keep an eye on him, or else he'll drop 6 threes in one game.
Yeah, I played with Brady last year. He's a great team player, just a good overall kid. So I definitely think he's gonna have a good year this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to play on this team. I think that also, like you were saying earlier, just like this team, just in general, these top 7 teams are. We're almost getting to the point where I don't want to say they're interchangeable with each other, but as the season goes on, they could definitely be interchangeable with each other. These rankings are very flexible.
Yeah, just a lot of great role players on this team. Like the depth is insane. We got Shawn Levine, Brady Robinson, Luke Brackett, Jack Ferrecchia, who I know is a good athlete. He played soccer. And we have Matty Berger, who's a steal in this draft, honestly.
Slept on Matty Berger.
At ninth round.
One other person we didn't mention was Jack Ferrecchia. I saw him play the other day at BSC. I think he's another role player that you can add into this. There's just a lot of depth on this team. So.
Absolutely. Okay. Are we ready to move on? We're going to move on to the number 5 spot. And this is going to be very controversial because this team was ranked number 2 last year. We have Nagy Steinberg. And they're rated 8 out of 10 on my scale, and that's just crazy. Yeah, we have an 8 out of 10 team, number 5 out of 11. We got Connor Nagy, who's obviously a top 10 player. Greg Steinberg, who I don't think did a lot of scoring last year, but he was good at everything else. Andy C, who is the hypest player in the league right now, Andy Selly, that's why we call him that, right? Ishan, who's a great role player. And just the problem with this team, why it's not higher, is I don't see a bona fide second scorer. We have Connor Nagy, who's probably going to ISO every time, but when he comes out, is Greg going to bring up the ball and drive and score and shoot?
All right, so my thoughts on this team is they're not going for ball dominant players. They're a total scheme team. They're going to either run that 1-3-1 or a diamond press or some elaborate scheme to score. How are we not talking about their team chemistry? Look at the guys on this team. Connor McDermott, Ishan, Andy C, Greg Nagy. I think they're going to be a really good team, though. Definitely.
I think one person to sleep on is Vomsy.
He's so fast.
Yeah,
Who
I
is
mean,
that?
big runner and also another person on defense to look out for. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I had this team ranked a little bit higher than number 5. I know they lost Adam, so that'll definitely hurt, but this, like we said, the scheme, that the 1-3-1 is so deadly, especially in rec ball. It's, in my opinion, the hardest defense to beat as a team. They run it so well. Connor will score probably like maybe even 20 a game. He could get those numbers. Greg is a great defensive player, and he's going to score quite a bit. And I think an underrated person on the team is Connor McDermott. I saw him at Westborough Swim Tennis the other day, and he put the clamps on. He was a great defensive player. He'll fit perfectly in that scheme. And I'm also really excited. I've heard a lot of talk about Ishan, about his shot, so I'm really quite excited to see how that turns out.
Like you said about Connor, after that BSC or the Westborough Tennis and Swim run, he texts me, make sure that I talk about him on the podcast, about how he locks up. I have this big paragraph about how he's been working on his defense, getting his body in the gym. He's rec ball ready, and he's ready to win a shit.
Rec ball ready. There's no better type of ready than rec ball.
I mean, that's the energy you need on
That's
he's
what we
ready
need
to
in this
go.
type of league. Okay, are we ready to move on?
Yeah, I think we are.
See, this top 3 is way too good to just be top 3. We have at number 3, Rams Alexander. Does anyone else want to take the lead on this? Because I don't really want to talk about it.
I think they have.
Oh, yeah. I think we meant to say number 4 is Henderson.
Oh, did I skip number 4?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, that's my fault. We're good. We can go to Henderson Levesque.
All right, so Team Henderson, you obviously have Brady Henderson, who's a top 10 player. He's the equivalent, in my opinion, of a Bam Adebayo. He's just an absolute demon on the boards. He's going to jump 10 feet in the air, get the ball, absolute clamp on defense. My man right here, Jake Birkhead. He's not going to say it himself, but he is one of the best players in rec ball. I saw him play at the gym, and I'm very impressed. If he can have that sort of confidence, I think he'll easily be an all-star in this league.
Absolutely. Jake is definitely a top 10 player. I would say the number 2 point guard in the league behind Jay McCullough. Jake is just he's a force on offense, and combined with role players like Shawn Levine and Ryan Bentley, maybe even a Jack Bedar,
Smacked Bedar.
Smacked Bedar.
Yeah.
There's so much potential for this team.
Yeah, I think you guys talk about this team being good, and I completely agree with that. There's no disputing that. I think just the question is losing Jay, changing the team a little bit this year. What are they going to be able to make another championship run? I guess is the question there.
So, if you want to go there.
I still think that they have a championship level defense like they had last year. My biggest concern is the loss of so much offense, and that's not to say that Jake still won't be able to generate a lot of points, but you're losing, like I said, Jay, who was a top offensive guard, and Gray, who I said, was underrated. He hit a lot of shots last year. I just think that their offense is going to take a dip.
So when I found out I was on Team Henderson, I was really excited. I think Mr. Henderson, one of the best coaches in the league, and then I know we've already said it, but Brady is just unstoppable. Every time I play pickup, everyone wants to be on his team because no one wants to even try to guard him. I mean, he's just a force. And I think Shawn Levesque is going to have a great year. I thought he was a really underrated player last year, and he's definitely going to produce a lot. And I think we're going to be a really good squad this year.
Yeah, I think what sets these teams apart is their coaching. As you said, Mr. Henderson, great coach, and also Mr. Levesque. He was the A-team basketball coach for my grade all the way up. He has that experience. He played in college, and I think that puts him over the edge, alongside Mr. Nagy, and teaching that 1-3-1.
I think one thing that people don't really realize is how much a rec ball coach can impact the team. If you have a great coach alongside pretty solid players, it will take you a long way.
Yeah, Mr. Levesque and Mr. Henderson really set us up for success last year. We were able to break certain presses or certain zones because they had the knowledge of the game, and we were able to work on it in practice. And I think we also have a lot of height this year. Ryan Bentley is very tall, and Jack Bedar, when he gets back from injury, he was a really good center last year. He put up 10 in the finals, so I think we got a really good team.
All right, moving on to the number 3 spot. Like you said, there's just so much talent on each team. It's kind of hard to say which is which. We had Alexander Rams. Rahim, this is your team. I'm gonna let you go off on what you want to say about your team.
We have 4 bona fide starters / top 15 players, in my opinion. And then we have Daniel Tesoro, whom I've heard good things about. He played football at St. John's. I think he could be a good 5 for us. And then obviously off the bench, we got Max Hagan. You know, I've heard good things about him shooting-wise. Quinn Campbell, you know, he's going to be our hype man, basically. Ian Campbell, who I don't even know if he's good or not, to be honest. William Lake, who I saw play last year as an 8th grader. He was not a bad player, you know. And then Alvin Bobby, we really just drafted because he has a cool name. But like, I think that our team is very solid. Shawn, do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, I think that you guys have 4 terrific offensive players, combined with the fact that you have a bench where I don't really see like a weak link on this bench. Like, I think that you have solid players that, like, when one of you needs to come off, you have someone else that can come on and not like replace you, but you're not gonna like. It's not like you're not putting any bad players in. You know, I feel like you got a solid bench and a great starting 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think to build on what you were saying, especially about Will Lake, I think he's going to surprise some people. I saw him play in the rec camp also this year, so I think he's a great scorer, good finishing around the rim. So,
Rahim, I have a question for you. Are we going to see a Defensive Player of the Year performance from you this year?
Let's see. I don't know. I'm not gonna throw out any preseason predictions, but I just want to say that we're probably going to be a top defensive team this year.
Yeah, I think that was my big note on this team. In my opinion, they're maybe the best defensive team in the league. Like Rahim over there is just an absolute beast. I remember when we played him last year, I would beat a couple guys, I would go to the hoop, and then out of nowhere I just see an arm way up in the sky. I think he had like 5 blocks that game, and JJ is he's I think the best defensive guard in the league. He's relentless. I mean, very tough to go by. And then you also add Cooper to this team. It's going to be a really good team.
Definitely.
Do we have an update on JJ? Like, is he good to go?
He's not cleared yet. He will be seeing a doctor soon. I do not know. But let's talk about Mikey Koo for a second.
Yeah, that's what I
the
was
steal
going
of
to.
the draft.
Mikey Koo was like a really good role player. He really built off Team West McDermott last year. And I'm really interested to see like how he like turns into like the like main scorer, because I think he can be the second scorer on this team. Because you and JJ are like main defense. Cooper's like a known scorer, and I just want to see how he like converts over to like creating his own baskets, rather than just like making other people like help on to Colin or Brendan, and then hits the open shot.
Absolutely. Are we ready to move on? So at the number 2 spot, this is where it gets kind of controversial. There is some late changes to this team, and we've had some controversy whether this team was a bona fide champion or if it's still like number 2. So on my list personally, it's number 2. We have Team McGinn, Lombardo, and this team is just it's all around just incredible.
I mean, I would say personally, I had them at 1 after we found out about I'll be being on their team. Otherwise, I mean, you have 4 really good players in Tommy, Michael Lombardo, Jared, and Steven Speckman. So I think that trio of 4 right there, add Rowan Anderson into that, it's a top tier team for sure.
Tommy, do you have any thoughts on your team right here?
I'm actually very confident in this team. I think we're going to go, very far. I definitely think we're the villains of the league this year. A lot of people don't like us, but I love that. I love the competitiveness. I think Jared's a very underrated player. He's going to be great for our team. Steven Speckman, we're going to want a lot out of him. Me and Michael are going to have to lead our way, and there's just a lot of great talent in this team. I'm very excited to see what we'll do.
Yeah, I think you and Lombardo are 2 of the best players in the entire league. And then, like you said, Jared is he's a really good shooter. I'll never forget playing with him at BSC, where he was just lighting it up from half court all the way around the 3-point line. So if you can get that as well, that's 3 really good scorers. That's going to be really tough to beat.
Yeah, and also you guys are looking over him again. Coway.
Oh, definitely.
How could we forget?
Coway, coming off soccer, he's built. He's in the gym every day. I think he's benching 180. You don't want to be matched up against him when he goes to the rim.
Kawhi is he's our Pat Beverly. He's Pat Beverly. He's a demon on defense, I'm telling you.
Yeah, this team is a game breaker. Like, And then paired with that, with the new addition of Aryaman, right? That's his name. He's apparently 6'5", like 230 maybe. Paint beast basically for this team. Like, is there anything you can do to stop them?
Yeah, I played against him once at BSC. He's like big into like volleyball, I think, as well.
Oh wow.
Before that tournament, he was really looking forward to it. So I played against him, and I think like his biggest issue is like consistency. Like he gets the board off his layups, but like he doesn't make the layup every time. But I guess like with practice, it'll come, and then he's a really big threat.
I mean, Coach Lombardo, one of the best. Like he's gonna help him out. I've never seen him play, but I've heard great things about him. Moving on to the consensus #1 team. Yeah. All right. So we have Team Lusher McCullough.
And this team is just, there's not many instances where you see like 6 good players. Like there's not many instances where you see a top 5 and then a 6th man that could be a starter in another team. Right? We got Jay McCullough, top 10 player of the league, my #1 point guard in the league, Michael Lusher, another top 10 player, Thomas Cashman, who came off a great freshman campaign last year, who's ready to make improvements this year at center. Andrew Corshane, who I've heard good things about. He's in BSC every day. Matab, who honestly gets a lot more hate than he should. He's a very good scorer in my opinion. And we got Avi Jane, Jack Biddle, Anthony Arazo, Joe Burnett. Like this team is just, it's got the keys to success.
I don't see a weak link on this team really. Yeah. They've got 6 players that we've highlighted, and the remaining 3 players are all players that you're fine putting them in a game, you know? Like they're not gonna be any detrimental to the team in any way. I feel like this team, what makes it so strong is, you're only as strong as your weakest link. This team doesn't really have a weak link as far as I can see.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm coaching this team, so I mean, I guess I'm a little biased, but I think the 2 players to look out for, look for a breakout season for Matab. I think he's gonna have a great season this year. And then outside of our, top 6 players that you guys have already referenced, Jack Biddle, a freshman that I think can be a really good player on this team, potentially a starter. So,
Jay McCullough, Jay Steedy as we call him, he is, I think, definitely a top 10 player. One thing I wanted to see him do is, last year he had a phenomenal playoff run. Like, no offense, single-handedly carried your team to that championship.
I wouldn't say carried, but
he
definitely helped a lot.
That's an understatement. So I want Jay to have a really good regular season. If you're just comparing the regular season and the postseason from last year, they weren't the same. Like, I want to see him just really perform, be an MVP candidate. Michael Lusher, I think he's going to want the ball a lot, definitely. So I'm interested to see how that duo works out. And then we got Matab. I'm not sure if this is the role he necessarily desired, but I'm interested to see how you're going to coach him and how you're going to work him out for this team.
We got Drew Gray as the coach. Hopefully he can calm down Matab to like a role player type player, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
So obviously I had him as one at well. I mean, obviously Jay's a really good player. I played with him in Westborough Swim and Tennis, and if you just give him even just a little bit of space at the 3-point line, he has such a quick shot. It's really deadly. And then Michael Lusher, he's pretty tough to guard in my opinion because he's a good shooter, but also he can like back you down, and he can really drive to the paint, and he can play like a forward, but he also can play like a guard. So that's going to be tricky to guard. And then Cashman as well, really tall player. He's going to be difficult to guard. I mean, this is a really good team. And obviously we talked about Matab. He can be a real beast. We were playing at Westborough Tennis the other day, and he was backing down everyone. He's relentless. It takes a lot of effort to guard him and to stop him, so look for him to have a breakout year.
Yeah, my breakout player on this team is definitely Cashman.
Absolutely.
Like, everybody knows he's solid, he's tall, makes his layups, but I think he could turn into, kind of like the Eli, like how he had, that really good season last year, dropped, 25, and I really think that if they, trust him with the ball and get his shots up, he can go off, and then this team would just destroy everybody else.
All right, well, without further ado, I think that concludes this first episode of Full Court Press. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for next week because we will be going over the awards such as Coach of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, Best Duo, stuff like that. So on behalf of Full Court Press, we're signing off.
'Cause
I gotta
we
watch.
don't
Let's
have
do
Wi-Fi.
this.
Yeah, let's count it down. We're really
we're
running
good.
low on time.
All right.
All right,
Damn,
5,
30.
4, 3, 2, 1.